what is Qi? That is a pretty fundamental question, certainly for Qigong practice and for lots of other things as well, as a philosophy for life, and also for things like Chinese medicine and so on. So that is going to be the topic of this episode of Qi Life. So I just recently wrote a blog article on longwhitecloudqigong.com, and that actually goes into a lot more detail about what Qi is. So you might want to check that out as well. But I thought that this would be useful just to talk about some of those things, and particularly to demonstrate some ideas around that might be useful, some things that I can convey by showing you that, not as easy to convey just in writing. So what is Qi? There's lots of opinions about this out there, and in particular there's a lot of oversimplifications. There are some people who say that Qi is just breathing, but that comes from the Chinese character that is used for Qi. One of the Chinese characters used for Qi is also used for breathing, and so people say, it's just breathing, but that's really not. That's misinterpreting the meaning just because of what it looks like in terms of how it's written, because there's also another character used for Qi, and they're both used, one not as much as the other, which has quite a different meaning, but it's also used for this same concept, and that character essentially means no fire or empty fire, or the fire, or the energy that comes from nothing, from nowhere. Quite a deep philosophical concept. Clearly that's not talking about just breathing, right? And so anyway, I talk about more about that in the blog article. You can read more about that there, including the different parts that make up the characters, things like that. So if we want to go beyond that, we need to recognize there's more to Qi than just breathing. Breathing is a powerful and useful tool for working with the energy, certainly, and it's pretty vital for to keep us alive, but there's more to it than just that. So a simple definition of Qi is energy, and again, people have sometimes oversimplified this as well, because when we talk about Qi as energy, it can actually describe any kind of energy, but in practical use we're really talking about living energy. This is what we're talking about, the energy of life. And that's certainly what we're working with in Qigong, and it's also what we're working with in Chinese medicine and things like that. So sometimes, again, people have oversimplified this, and they have said, well, Qi is bioelectricity, because bioelectricity is really important to life. Obviously it flows through all of our nerves, but not just through all of our nerves. Every cell, it doesn't have to be a nerve cell, every cell has electrical functions that help to maintain and control and make things happen in it. So people say, well, the energy of life is bioelectricity. But again, this is an oversimplification, because there's lots of other aspects to our living energy as well. It's not just bioelectricity. Bioelectricity on its own does not create and sustain life. And certainly the different effects that we work with in Qigong, and we work with and look for in terms of practicing Chinese medicine, are not limited to just bioelectricity. It's an important one, but it's not the whole thing. So what are the different parts of energy, of living energy within us? Bioelectricity is one, but there's others. Heat. And this is something, if you've done a lot of Qigong, you've probably experienced movement of heat within you, and feeling heat coming out from your hands and things like this. Certainly this is part of Qi, and this is one of the things that people have measured sometimes in experiments when they've been trying to measure aspects of Qi. They've measured the far infrared radiation that comes out of someone when practicing Qigong, and even evidence of it circulating within the body, right? our cells have to have a certain amount of heat to stay alive, and also they generate heat as part of their function. So heat is part of it, as well as that movement. Even if we're standing completely still, if you're alive, there's movement. There has to be inside. The fluids are moving. Your blood is pumping, the other fluids are moving, the organs are moving inside. And so movement is part of life as well. And again, these are things that we work with in Qigong and Chinese medicine as part of working with Qi or energy. Beyond that, chemical energy, oxygen, all the different nutrients, the hormones, the enzymes, all of these sorts of things within our body is part of our energy. When the energy is stimulated, it gets stimulated by hormones, by enzymes, by movement of oxygen in the blood, and so on. So all of these things together are parts of Qi, and this is what has made it difficult for people to define narrowly. And I think if you really want to understand what Qi is, you need to recognize the value of all of these individual parts of the energy. These are all parts of the picture, and you can work very specifically with them, but also recognize that they are parts of a greater whole. That Qi is not just one of them, it's all of them, and you don't need to have a narrow definition for it to be useful. In fact, it's very useful to have a wide definition, because then your definition and understanding of Qi can be whatever energy it is that is necessary for life, that is useful for creating health and vitality and so on. And when we tune into that, we tune into all of the things that we need for our health and our vitality. Okay, so now this is the bit that I was wanting to demonstrate in this video, rather than just talk about or write about, because demonstrating might give you some, a better idea of it. All those different types of energy that I've talked about, again, no one of them, and even not all of them combined, is sufficient for life. For life, there might even be some other parts of energy that we don't understand, but there's definitely one thing that is absolutely essential for us to consider that to be living energy. And that is that the energy is responsive. It doesn't just flow and arbitrarily do its thing. It responds and changes. This is what life is. You could have something, if something not alive, you could run electricity through it. You could heat it up. You could move it around. You could have chemicals in place. You could have all of those things happening at once, and that wouldn't make it alive. Yet all of those are parts of living energy, and the thing that makes it alive is the way it responds and changes, and all of those work together harmoniously as a kind of living energy. So a really simple demonstrational way to get an idea of this concept. If I rub my arm, I'm using physical pressure. Now if my arm or something else was not alive, all that would happen as a result of this physical pressure is that, well, I might physically move some things around on whatever it is I was rubbing, and it might heat up a little bit from the friction. That's it. That's where it would end. Because I'm alive, I rub my arm, it moves some things around, there's some friction. As a result of this stimulus, one, my nerves become active. So I start to have more electrical activity. My cells become more active, stimulated by the pressure and also the heat from the friction. They start to become more active. They start to pump nutrients in and out as chemical reactions occur in them, and they start to generate their own heat, bringing even more warmth to the area. So the pressure, the physical pressure from outside, has stimulated electrical activity, which also creates magnetism. It's also starting to stimulate some heat activity, and as those cells become more active, there will be more internal movement of fluid, of blood, and also other fluids carrying wastes away. So we're going to get internal movement and presence of different chemical energy as well. Not only that, the activity is not restricted to just this area that I'm rubbing. The whole system engages in sending this energy to this area. My heart engages as the circulation increases. It might only be a small change, but it does change, it responds. My liver responds. My kidneys respond as different things need to be released and filtered as a result of the activity. So this is just a very mild, small stimulus. It could be a stronger stimulus, but we see that living energy responds and changes. And so what happens here and through the rest of the body is far more than would happen in something that was non-living. We're influencing a living system, and all of the energies work together. In a way, they convert into one another in a way, or rather they respond and take different forms as they all become involved. And so chi is as the energy of life involves the response of all of those different things in their varying amounts according to what is necessary. So sometimes chi can have more electricity, sometimes it can have more heat, sometimes it can have more internal movement, because it changes because it's living. Okay, hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully that gives you some things to think about, or some things that will inform your Qigong practice. Again, it is something where there's lots of different opinions out there. A lot of them are oversimplifications. Some of them will probably be quite different from this, but hopefully there's some things that are useful and interesting to you. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share it with other people who you think might also benefit from it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.